Next question. What extracurriculars blend in or are unimpressive? What extracurriculars really stand out? And so when I think of this, I think students kind of obsess over some like honor society or club that they really want to join, but millions of other students in the nation also have joined it and also are going to put it on their resume. So what extracurriculars have you seen that kind of don't blend in, are kind of outstanding from the rest? I'll go to Jua for this one.
I'll touch upon something Mary said earlier when we were talking about, I think, a myth, potentially, and kind of, thinking that you have to be this well-rounded, student as far as what you're involved in. And there's not so much as far as what blend in or what's unimpressive. I'm going to be focused on you sharing what is important to you. I'm assuming that you are involved in things that actually matter to you. Because if you are, then more than likely you're going to be, it's going to be sustained activity. You're sticking with it 3 or 4 years. Hopefully, you're taking leadership roles within these, or activities. Those are the things that I'm impressed with. As far as what is your contributions, not so much what you're picking. There's no special formula to extracurricular activities. You're correct, Benjamin. There's no perfect formula. We don't have a preference. I never do. That's definitely a myth. It's based upon you as an individual, what you're choosing to do, whether you are angular in what you do. I have, athletes, and all they do is kind of related to being an athlete. But in saying that, they're typically on a couple of club sport teams, or they're traveling nationally, sometimes internationally. They're on school teams. They are coaching 2 or 3 different teams. That's a lot. So we have to tell them to flesh all of that out to give us the full breadth of everything that they do on a daily basis. So all of that is impressive to me. What I'm more impressed with, again, is you being able to really dig in, show me in detail, again, your contributions, hours per week, weeks per year, how many years, what leadership positions have you held, and again, what are your contributions, so that we get a very good sense, again, of how are you going to, again, contribute to our campus. I think Mary talked about this again. Are you going to be a great steward of what we represent as an institution? And going back to what Janessa said, that mission statement, what are we at? What are we based on for our respective schools? What do we value? And then how does that reflect, again, in what you've already been involved in, and hopefully seeing what you're going to bring to our campus. So that's more of my kind of broader view of how I look at it, versus you have to have a particular extracurricular down. I think that's definitely not the focus. And you're right, Benjamin. I think that's a huge myth in students and how they approach this.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Janessa.
Yes, about the myth. I have to recall a conversation that I had a few years ago with a student who honestly received some really unhappy advice about how that student needed to tailor their resume based on their major that they wanted to pursue at their college. And I'm thinking, like, they're not applying for a job, they're applying to college in that way. And at the end of the day, it was interesting because it ignored all the other wonderful qualities that the student presented. And so really dispelling that myth, even for us, working with so many students from across the board, and really thinking about what is important to you, and are you pursuing it fervently? Are you taking opportunities to have leadership opportunities within what you're pursuing? Even if it's unnamed leadership, can you articulate what that means for us in your application? So perhaps the additional information section, perhaps in that really small character limit that we have on a common application, for example, but allowing us to flesh it out, just as Jua mentioned. For us, and I'm just going to be very honest, it really doesn't matter what you're involved in. It is how fervently you're pursuing it. Just as Mary mentioned, we're building a well-rounded class, not necessarily a well-rounded person. Now, of course, if there's some things that are unethical, of course, we will be having red flags, but those are very extreme, rare cases. But most of it, we want you to bring your dynamic, unique, niche self to the table, and know that could stand out on its own. Even hobbies can also stand out. I've seen a lot of hobbies, especially during the pandemic as well, like people who have literally done their research and like went into a rabbit hole and told us about it. I'm like, you need a scholarship, man, because of how really cool that research was. And so, believe it or not, even some of the most smallest mundane pieces that you don't think people care about, we actually do. So just tell us about it.
Awesome. Let's go to Matt.
We all agree, and that's good. Sometimes we don't, and on a lot of these we are. It's not about what the thing is called, it's about what you do, and that could be a lot of things. So I have students who work on the family farm, right? Like they need to do that to help out. So they don't have a laundry list of being the editor of the yearbook and being the captain of the Quidditch squad or whatever else. They're doing the thing though. If you are taking care of younger siblings, tell us about it. Let us know. If you were working to help pay your bills or even just pay for pizza, whatever, let us know. Exactly what Janessa was saying. We want to see your depth. We want to see your involvement. We want to see that you care about the thing. We want to see you showing work ethic and maturity and leadership. And you can do that in anything. And so anybody who's telling you, nobody plays the oboe, be an oboe player because they need more of those, not true for most of us.
Awesome. Mary.
Everything that everybody has said already kind of covers it. I think the only thing that I can add here is that the extracurriculars that you do, like to help us understand what you're doing, is really helpful. And so avoid those acronyms that might not be universally known. If it's something that's a hobby or something that's not necessarily an official activity where you can talk about your contributions and your leadership, tell us why it's important to you, because you're not going to talk about all of these things in your essay. And so you only have a little bit of space, but think about what you're putting in that space to help us understand why it's meaningful to you, how you're contributing, why it's important, why you're spending your time doing this.
Yeah, I think we see a common theme here. It's not about what the activity is, but it's about what you do in the activity. So make sure you're really putting that activity description and really perfecting it. And also I'd like to add, in one of our previous webinars, I think back to a student said, it's really quality over quantity. What I mean by that is, if you have like 12 activities that you really dabbled in, but really didn't put much effort into any one of them, that's not as impressive as having 6 activities and all of which you've kind of pursued and really passionate about.